Have you ever stopped and thought about, like, just how much we rely on written language
Oh, yeah, all the time.
to communicate, to record history?
It's foundational to our society.
Right. Like, imagine if we just couldn't read anything that was written down.
Ah.
Imagine, like, an entire civilization's history
Yeah.
just completely locked away because we couldn't understand the writing.
That's right, yeah.
That's exactly what it was like with ancient Egypt before the Rosetta Stone.
Yeah, the Rosetta Stone really is more than just like an old rock.
Oh, for sure.
It's the key that unlocked centuries of Egyptian history and culture.
It's incredible. And that's what we're going to dive into today, the story of the Rosetta Stone.
Absolutely.
From its accidental discovery to the race to decipher its secrets.
Yeah, a real detective story.
And believe me, this is not just going to be like another dry history lesson.
No.
This is a tale of intrigue,
Yes.
obsession, and this linguistic puzzle that captivated some of the greatest minds in Europe.
It's a great story.
So let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
Let's set the scene.
Okay.
It all starts with a seemingly ordinary construction project
Okay.
in the bustling city of Rosetta, Egypt,
Mm-hmm.
back in 1799.
1799.
Napoleon's army was in Egypt at the time.
Napoleon in Egypt. That's interesting. I didn't realize.
He had a real fascination.
I mean, wasn't he more focused on, you know,
He was conquering.
conjuring than ancient history?
Yes, but Napoleon was a complex figure.
Okay.
He was a brilliant military strategist, but he was also fascinated by history and culture. In fact, he brought a whole team of scholars and scientists with him to Egypt,
Oh, really?
tasked with studying the country's ancient wonders.
Wow.
So while his soldiers were busy, doing their military duties,
Waging war.
Napoleon's scholars were off exploring pyramids and temples.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah.
So this brings us back to that fort in Rosetta.
Yes, it does.
Okay, so what was going on there?
Well, a French lieutenant named Pierre-François Bouchard was overseeing the construction, and his men were digging through the rubble of an old wall
Okay, rubble of an old wall.
when they came across something rather unusual.
Let me guess.
Yes,
The Rosetta Stone.
you got it. Buried within that old wall, they found a large black basalt slab
Okay.
covered in inscriptions.
Wow.
Now, Bouchard may not have been a scholar,
Right.
but he knew this wasn't just any ordinary rock.
Yeah, so what did it look like? I mean, I've seen pictures.
Sure.
But what was it like in person?
Well, the stone itself wasn't particularly beautiful.
Okay.
It's a broken off section of a larger stele,
Okay.
probably once displayed in a temple.
I see.
But what made it special were those inscriptions, 3 different scripts,
3 scripts.
carved side by side,
Interesting.
covering most of the surface.
Were they all in Egyptian?
That's where things get really fascinating.
Okay.
One of the scripts was ancient Greek,
Okay.
which scholars at the time could easily read. Another was Demotic, a cursive script used in everyday Egyptian life.
Mm-hmm.
And the third, the most intriguing of all, was hieroglyphs.
Ah, hieroglyphs.
Yes.
Those picture-like symbols
Exactly.
that had baffled scholars for centuries.
That's right.
I can see why they found this stone so exciting. It must have felt like
Oh,
finding a lost treasure map.
exactly. You see, at that time, no one knew how to read hieroglyphs.
Wow.
They were considered a lost language.
Really?
But the Rosetta Stone presented an incredible opportunity because the stone contained the same message in 3 different scripts.
Yeah.
Scholars realized they might finally have a way to crack the code.
It's like finding a language translator
Yeah.
built into an ancient artifact.
Yes.
So the Rosetta Stone essentially became this giant linguistic puzzle waiting to be solved.
Precisely. It was a linguistic Rosetta Stone, if you will.
I like that.
But while the solution seemed tantalizingly close,
Yeah.
deciphering the stone's secrets would prove to be a much greater challenge than anyone anticipated.
I bet there was a mad rush to study this stone.
Oh, absolutely.
Who got their hands on it first?
Well, the stone initially went to General Jacques-François Menu,
Okay.
a French commander who was also an amateur Egyptologist.
An amateur Egyptologist.
Yeah, he was a bit of a scholar himself.
Wow. So Manu got the stone.
The story takes another turn when the British defeat the French in Egypt in 1801.
Oh, no. Poor Manu.
Yeah,
I guess you can't be an amateur Egyptologist when you're a prisoner of war.
that's right. And as part of the surrender terms, the French had to hand over a number of important artifacts.
Let me guess what was at the top of the list.
And guess what was at the top of that list?
The Rosetta Stone.
The Rosetta Stone
Oh.
became a British prize of war shipped off to London.
Wow.
and eventually finding its home in the British Museum, where it remains to this day.
Talk about a journey.
It's quite a tale, isn't it?
From a forgotten wall in Egypt
Yes,
to the halls of the British Museum.
it is, but this is just the beginning. The real drama unfolds as scholars across Europe race to decipher the Rosetta Stone,
Okay.
each hoping to be the one who unlocks the secrets of ancient Egypt.
So it's like a real-life historical thriller.
Oh, absolutely.
So who are these scholars?
Well, to learn about that, you'll have to wait for part 2 of our deep dive.
Oh, man.
We'll introduce you to the key players,
Right.
the rivalries and the breakthroughs that eventually led to the decipherment of hieroglyphs.
I can't wait. If you're enjoying our deep dive into the Rosetta Stone so far,
Yes.
make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next installment.
We'll be back soon.
We'll be back soon with part 2, where we'll reveal how the code was finally cracked. Welcome back to our deep dive into the Rosetta Stone. Last time we left off with the stone making its way to the British Museum,
Yeah.
becoming this tantalizing puzzle for scholars all across Europe.
You can imagine the excitement, just the sense of possibility in the air. Here was a chance to finally understand this ancient civilization that had captivated the imagination for so long.
For so long. Yeah, so who are some of the key figures in this race
Oh.
to decipher the Rosetta Stone?
Well, there were numerous scholars who took up the challenge.
Right.
But 2 names really stand out. Thomas Young, a brilliant British polymath, and Jean-François Champollion, a young Frenchman with a lifelong passion for ancient Egypt.
So a British scholar and a French scholar.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like there might have been some rivalry there.
Oh, absolutely. It was a race not just against time, but against each other, to see who could unlock the secrets of the Rosetta Stone first.
I love that. Okay, so let's start with Thomas Young. What was his approach to deciphering the stone?
Well, Young was a remarkable figure, just a true Renaissance man.
Okay.
He was a physicist, and a linguist, among other things.
Okay.
And he brought all of those skills to bear on the Rosetta Stone.
He wasn't just a historian or a linguist. He had this whole other scientific background.
Exactly, and that gave him a really unique perspective.
Crazy.
He focused on the Demotic script.
Okay, the Demotic.
That everyday cursive form of Egyptian writing.
Okay.
And he meticulously compared the Demotic text to the Greek translation, looking for patterns for clues.
Okay, did he make any progress?
He did. He was able to identify several phonetic values for Demotic signs.
What does that mean?
Basically figuring out how some of the symbols represented sounds.
Oh, so he was figuring out the alphabet?
The sounds that the symbols made.
Right.
This was a major breakthrough.
So Young basically started to crack the code of the Demotic script.
That's right. He laid some really important groundwork.
Okay.
But he hit a wall when it came to hieroglyphs.
Oh, no.
He couldn't quite grasp the system, how it combined these phonetic elements with symbolic meanings.
Okay, so hieroglyphs had a whole other layer of complexity.
Yes, it was more than just a simple sound for symbol substitution.
Right.
There was a deeper layer of meaning there.
Got it. So this is where Champollion enters the picture.
Precisely.
Okay.
Jean-François Champollion was, from a young age, completely obsessed with ancient Egypt.
Wow.
He learned Latin, Greek, Hebrew, Arabic, and even Coptic, the descendant of ancient Egyptian.
Wow.
All before he was a teenager.
That's incredible.
Yeah, talk about dedication.
Yeah.
He was truly dedicated, and he believed even more strongly than Young that hieroglyphs were not simply pictographs, but a complex writing system capable of expressing abstract ideas.
So he saw them as more than just pictures representing objects or actions.
Exactly, and this belief would ultimately lead him to the breakthrough that had eluded Young and so many others.
So what was Champollion's secret weapon? How did he manage to crack the code?
Well, Champollion built upon Young's work on Demotic.
Okay.
But he took a slightly different approach. He focused on the royal names.
Interesting.
Ptolemy.
Okay.
And Cleopatra.
Cleopatra.
Which were conveniently included on the Rosetta Stone.
Why those names in particular?
Well, they were already known from Greek texts, and they were written within cartouches on the hieroglyphic portion of the stone. Champollion noticed that certain hieroglyphs within these cartouches seemed to correspond to the sounds of the letters in the Greek names.
Oh, so we started to see those phonetic patterns. Similar to what Young had found in Demotic.
Yes, but here's the key difference. Champollion realized that the hieroglyphs were not simply representing sounds letter for letter.
Okay.
They were also conveying symbolic meanings.
Oh, so it wasn't just a simple substitution cipher.
Exactly. Champollion realized that a single hieroglyph could represent a sound, an entire word, or even a concept. This was a revolutionary insight.
Wow.
It was the key to unlocking the entire hieroglyphic system.
That's incredible. It must have been like suddenly being able to read a language that had been silent for centuries.
It truly was. Imagine the thrill of suddenly being able to understand the inscriptions on tombs and temples.
Yeah.
To hear the voices of pharaohs and priests speaking across millennia.
I can only imagine. So how did Champollion share this with the world?
Well, in 1822, Champollion presented his findings in a now famous lecture to the Académie des Inscriptions et Belles-Lettres in Paris.
I bet that was a standing room only crowd.
You can imagine it was a sensation. Champollion, still quite young at the time, became an overnight hero. Wow. Hailed as the man who deciphered hieroglyphs.
So Champollion cracked the code, and suddenly the world had access to all of this knowledge about ancient Egypt.
Well, it wasn't quite that simple.
Okay.
Champollion's work was groundbreaking, but it was just the beginning.
Right.
It took decades more of research and scholarship to fully understand the complexities of the hieroglyphic system.
Yeah, so the Rosetta Stone was just the first step.
Exactly. It was the key that opened the door, but it took a lot more effort to truly walk through that door and explore the vast world of ancient Egyptian knowledge.
That makes sense. So what happened after Champollion's breakthrough? How did this work change our understanding of ancient Egypt?
Well, to answer that, we'll need to move on to part 3 of our deep dive. We'll explore the legacy of the Rosetta Stone, the impact of Champollion's discovery, and what this all means for us today.
That's a great place to pause for now. If you're finding this deep dive as fascinating as I am, be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss part 3. Welcome back, everyone, to our deep dive. I'm so excited to finish up talking about the Rosetta Stone.
Yeah, me too.
We've seen how it was discovered, how scholars raced to decipher it, and how Champollion's breakthrough finally unlocked the secrets of hieroglyphs.
A pivotal moment.
Really a pivotal moment, but the story doesn't end there.
No, it doesn't.
Champollion's decipherment wasn't just like a personal triumph. It was a watershed moment for our understanding of history.
Yeah, it changed everything.
So what happened next? How did the world react to this sudden ability to read ancient Egyptian texts?
Imagine a library full of books that have been sealed shut for centuries.
Oh, wow.
Their content's a complete mystery, and suddenly you have the key to open those books and read their stories.
I love that.
That's essentially what happened after Champollion's discovery.
So it must have been like a whole new world opening up.
Exactly. Champollion's work sparked a renaissance in Egyptology.
Wow.
Scholars from all over the world flocked to Egypt, eager to explore the tombs and temples, to read the inscriptions, and to piece together the history and culture of this ancient civilization.
So did this lead to new discoveries? I mean, we all know about the pyramids and the mummies.
Oh, yeah.
But did they find anything else?
Oh, absolutely. The decipherment of hieroglyphs allowed scholars to understand not just the grand monuments, but also the everyday lives of ancient Egyptians. They could read letters, legal documents, religious texts, even shopping lists.
Really?
Yeah.
Shopping lists. That's so cool.
Yeah, it gave us this incredibly rich and detailed picture of their society, their beliefs, their hopes, and their dreams.
It's like suddenly being able to eavesdrop on conversations from thousands of years ago.
Exactly. We learned about their family structures, their religious practices, their political systems, their trade networks, and so much more.
Wow. Did anything they found change what we thought we knew about ancient Egypt? Were there any big surprises?
Well, there were many surprises, both big and small.
Like what?
For example, we learned that women in ancient Egypt had a surprising degree of independence and legal rights.
Really?
They could own property-run businesses and even initiate divorce.
Wow. That's pretty progressive for an ancient civilization.
It is, and there were many other fascinating discoveries we learned about their advanced medical practices, their complex understanding of astronomy, their love of music and dance, and their elaborate burial rituals.
So it sounds like the Rosetta Stone wasn't just a key to their language, it was a key to their entire culture.
That's a great way to put it. The decipherment of hieroglyphs allowed us to see ancient Egypt not just as a collection of monuments and artifacts, but as a vibrant, living civilization.
Right.
Full of fascinating people with their own stories to tell.
It's incredible to think how much we've learned about ancient Egypt thanks to this one stone. It's really a testament to the power of language, isn't it? I mean, without the Rosetta Stone, all that history would still be a mystery to us.
It's true, the Rosetta Stone is a symbol of the importance of communication, of understanding, and of bridging the gaps between cultures. And across time, it reminds us that even the most ancient and seemingly impenetrable mysteries can be solved with patience, perseverance, and a little bit of luck.
And a little bit of luck, yeah. And it's also a reminder that there are still so many mysteries out there waiting to be uncovered. Who knows what other Rosetta Stones might be hidden away in museums or buried beneath the sands of time?
That's what makes history so exciting. It's a never-ending journey of discovery.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe one of our listeners will make the next breakthrough deciphering a lost language or uncovering a forgotten chapter of the past.
That's a great thought to end on. If you've enjoyed our deep dive into the Rosetta Stone, be sure to subscribe to the podcast for more fascinating explorations of history, science, and culture. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep that spark of curiosity alive.